I didn't leave Yorktown. I've been here since all my life.
And everyone in Yorktown is so thrilled about that.
Just don't send her to AOC. I mean, in Yorktown High.
Well, if I do, she's not coming.
I had a guy come in the other day, and that's all he kept on talking about with this Cortez, and he's a big Trump supporter. And I go, I said, can I just say something? I go, for a guy who talks a lot about this girl. Yeah, I know, finally. It took him 150 episodes.
What, they kept spelling your name wrong? You got mine right. Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes you do.
No, fool. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Volpe Bazzo Report. I'm your co-host, Dominic Volpe, as usually with Andy Bazzo.
And it's April 2nd.
April 2nd.
A quarter of the year has gone by. I'm too old. I can't afford this fast trip like this.
And not only that, we're still on the air.
Yes, we're still here. And we have, as usual, our co-host, Ryan Fumagalli,
Nice
and
to see you,
a
Andy.
special guest who has been on the show twice before. Fascinating man, great book writer. Nothing with centerfolds, though, but they do come with pictures. Anyway, Mr. John Curran, former Peekskill historian. Welcome back, John.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
John, welcome back.
I enjoy these shows.
Always
They're
a pleasure
fun,
to have you
And
on.
before
We zip through just like that.
And before we start with the first question, to say hello to our number one
Marianne
fan,
McCara, hello, how are you?
who
Thank
tweeted to me when she found out John was going to be a guest, tweeted his high school yearbook picture and track team, was that you said?
Yeah.
And the track team picture. The picture of the track team you can find in his book on the history of Peekskill.
How did she happen upon your high school yearbook photo?
Oh,
It's
Marianne is
available in the
good.
library.
Oh, okay.
Stalker?
A little creepy, maybe?
Stalker?
Big fan?
No, it's called research.
And
All right, so
Research of
John,
you.
question. You look better now or then?
Geez, you got me. I'm still trying to figure out how I was just running around in a circle, for so many years.
And don't forget
3 years.
Christine Scotty, who puts the show on YouTube.
YouTube, thank you.
And their daughter Reagan, who is 4 years old.
Wow.
Who is thinking of going to the Yorktown High School because she wants to be like AOC.
Right. And who's AOC?
And right now, she's
Nobody
got,
named Reagan is
and
gonna be like
right now,
AOC.
she's got the insane intelligence at this point as AOC.
Now, the real question is, when's the next one coming?
No comment, but let's talk about Peekskill history.
Yes, let's get over to our guest because we got
Well,
a
you're
lot
part
to
of the
cover.
history. So
Yes,
We got a
that's
lot
true.
to. Now, the last show that he was on,
Yes.
he did the book. What was it again, Ken?
Which one are we talking about? The
book
streets.
that-
The streets.
Right? No, on the Yellow Brick Road.
Well, it was a hot topic a couple of years ago.
What was the name of the book again?
Yeah.
no, it wasn't a book.
Wasn't it? It was.
No.
Well, no. We were talking about that time. The one who wrote the story.
Oh, there was a book written about
Yes,
this whole
yes,
story,
yes,
and that's
yes.
what stimulated this
Correct,
whole thing. The
correct.
Peekskill had strong connections, not only to the author but to the story.
Right. So what's the fault? In other words, the one side says there's no
Well-
credence to what you say, right? And that is. And what do you?
Well,
what's your
people can
feeling?
say whatever they want.
Well, no. But what's your
Well,
feeling?
yeah, one interpretation is that it's based on the dynamics going on in the country, the free silver, and the William Jennings Bryan, and the industrialism. Unfortunately, Frank Baum was not an academic. He didn't know about any of that stuff. He only went to school for 2 years.
Right.
He was totally enveloped within his family and trying to survive by making money.
Now-
he had no concept that in that academic
Now,
sense.
L. Frank Baum was living
Right.
upstate New York,
Yeah, well, he was born in Chittenango,
Right.
just outside.
and the father
Syracuse.
sent him to the
Peekskill Military Academy.
Right.
For the only schooling he ever received in his life.
Now, mind you, what year are we talking? This is
1868, something like that.
Now, so now
That's the class,
There's no
yeah.
train.
1860.
There's no train. There's no jet. There's no car. How did he come here?
Well, there is a train.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, here's the
Yes,
train.
What they would do is they would, in those days, and I looked it up and I found it in an old newspaper, they would combine the passage on the boat with the railroad.
Right.
That was sort of common in those days.
So when he arrived arrives in Peekskill, he
So
arrives
probably
off
he took the train into Albany and then the boat down the river.
Okay.
And the lower dock, there today is a former West Street, which is paved with the old-style, smaller Dutch brick.
Correct. Now the Dutch brick is what? What color is that?
It's yellow.
It's yellow brick, correct?
Right.
Now the foundries that were here also made the red brick naturally, the one you would see to
Yeah,
build
the
a
common
house.
brick, yeah.
Right. That's not the one you would line the roads
this
with.
was here way back in the 1830s.
So your idea is that if there's yellow bricks all the way from here all the way up to the Peekskill Military Academy,
go ahead.
or at least halfway or throughout the city, that's the supposition, is that you're saying he got that idea of the yellow brick road when he arrived here in Peekskill.
No, some people interpret it that way. I don't.
Right.
You don't,
But
right.
that's okay. I go more with his personal history. There was a book written that started this whole thing by Evan Schwartz out of New York City. It's a very good book. And he went up to Syracuse, Chittenango, did all the research, the fundamental stuff.
Right.
He went to Chicago, he went to North Dakota where Baum lived, and so on and so on. He really put it all together as a biography. And he found that most of the things in his writing had to do with his personal life.
Of course, things that he picked up.
And he
growing
goes
up.
to the guess where the World's Fair was in 1893. There it was
Chicago.
in Chicago.
Correct.
Guess who was on the stage and was the biggest highlight of the whole festival, pretty much?
Edison.
Was Thomas Edison. At that time, in his own lifetime, he was called the Wizard of Menlo Park. He brings for the first time, he illuminated outdoor scenes, outdoor with, electric lights.
Wasn't that?
And so there he is. There's the Wizard of Oz in the
That's
story.
what I tell people. If it wasn't for Thomas Edison, we'd all be watching TV by candlelight.
That's right.
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
And
Well, if AOC has her way, we might be doing that again soon, right?
This is true.
the girl in the story, her name is Dorothy
TV.
Gale, right?
Uh-huh.
He had a young niece that died in infancy, and her name was Dorothy Gage.
Right.
So he brings her back to life in the story.
Correct.
So
His life experiences is what was basically put into the story.
So here at Peekskill, it had basically, it didn't used to be military, it had just turned military. Baum was artistic by nature, and he was looking out the window, and the teacher gave him a hard time. These were Civil War veterans, by the way, these teachers, they were tough guys.
Right.
And basically he was physically manhandled, and he fell on the floor, and he basically passed out for a while. And so soon after, he writes to his father. He says, I want to get out of here. The teachers are treating me cruelly, and I just want to get out.
Not having a good time.
So what's the story of Dorothy? She's lost in a strange land. This was strange to Frank Baum. He wants to get back home. How does he do it? Well, he remembers maybe I came in with the yellow brick, first thing I saw, and it's the last thing, that's where the steamboat is, and that's what I want to get back to.
Right.
That's sort of my understanding
No,
of it.
just for
Right.
the thing that people that, because we have a lot of new residents to Peekskill.
Well, who
with all these
Baum
new
is, first of all, go to
no,
the-
no, with all the new apartments. Those yellow bricks behind the Standard House,
Right.
that's part of the original yellow brick road you're talking about here in
That's right.
Peekskill.
That's what
Correct.
we're talking
Yep.
about.
They didn't paint that yellow for the Standard
It
House.
went all the way out to the dock before the railroad. It was
Right,
there.
so I'm just saying that's original. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
okay.
My
I just-
understanding with yellow brick is that the yellow brick is actually used. There's a chemical. There's more calcite in it and something else, so that when they heat it, it turns yellow because they use this like fire brick or for roads because it's stronger in nature. As
Maybe
compared
they were
to the
just
brick wood.
French.
Huh?
Maybe they were just French
French.
bricks. Under heat, under fire.
I thought you were
they
going.
turned
I thought you were going with the
Well,
yellow.
technically they're known as Dutch brick because presumably go further back in the historic, it's a little bit arcane.
Right.
But the Dutch actually used the brick as a ballast. So they unloaded it. First thing they did was make little docks for themselves with the brick that was on the ships. And that's sort of the story as well.
So if you're a Peekskill resident, you have your friends over, and you're walking, and you see this yellow brick road.
Right.
What is accurate, if anything? What could you tell your guests, your visitors? Hey, this is Peekskill, and
It
guess
may
what
or
this
may
is?
not be, involved in Frank Baum's
Wizard of
personal
Oz.
life and maybe in the story.
Okay.
Now, the other book you wrote was on where Peekskill streets got their names. Great book. We did a show on that. You said, I've had customers ask me where you can get it. There are 2 places you said, or 3 that it's still available.
Yeah,
If
right
it's-
now at the Bruised Apple on Central Avenue, nice little
Bookstore, yeah.
poking around store. They got some really good stuff in there, and also in the museum, and it has been occasionally for sale in the Field Library.
What's the name of the book?
The history of Peekskill street names.
Right, and that was with Marbito?
Yeah, John Marbito.
John Marbito.
Yeah, he's a writer also.
Right, I'm just saying, we don't want to give you solely, but you did have, there was another writer, and we can't ignore that. But that's a fascinating. Anybody that lives in Peekskill or the area, and you see these street names, you want to know where did they come up with this name?
Well, yeah. How about Paulding Street? Now, you guys, you should know this. Now, Dominic revealed he didn't know.
Yeah,
so
I did.
much. You know anything about John Paulding? It's named for John Paulding.
Well, I did say it was something
Of the
during
Revolution.
during the war. I remember that.
He was a militia soldier during the Revolutionary War times. He was stationed on a road as a guard, and coming down the road was a British major in disguise, technically a spy. He wound up being hung over in Japan. And Andre, the British officer,
hung in Japan.
had been conspiring with Benedict Arnold to betray the entire Hudson Valley Command.
Right.
And that could have been our failure in the war.
Now, understand, I've heard different things though.
Was he
because-
killed on that street? Is that what happened? Is that where he was killed?
No, it was just named in honor of John.
No,
Paulding.
David
Okay.
Vine, yeah.
Okay.
The people that were killed or the people that were hung, that was on Gallows Hill Road. They literally had a
Right.
gallows.
Well,
there.
there was another military spy discovered out there, and that was under General Putnam. And he was working for the British within American lines. It was, it was war, and they were
Yeah.
playing military, serious stuff back
Why
and
is
forth.
Continental Village called Continental Village? Where did it get its name from?
From the Continental Army.
Was
This was the headquarters and base camp for the Continental Army
Right.
for almost 2 years, right after the Battle of White Plains. GW was here, Commander-in-Chief, sets up the whole thing. He created Continental Village.
Right. Now, the house that's right next to the nursing home on Oregon Road, where the
That's-
Cortland Nursing
Oh,
Home.
that's the Upper Manor House, the
Upper
Van
Manor
Cortlandt House.
Right.
Yeah,
that
and,
was Pierre Van Cortlandt.
Pierre
that
Van
was-
Cortlandt had his own, he was the colonel in a Westchester militia, the 3rd Militia Regiment.
Now, before
So
I-
he was a patriot as well.
Before we get into the reason why you're here, one more quick. The Van Cortlandt Manor tours that they do down in Croton, which house was that then? Because we already
Well,
know what the one up here is. You
the,
talked about that, but what about the one
Well,
that
the
they do the
Cortlands
tours?
were big landowners. They owned
Right.
all of this land, all the
Yeah.
way pretty much north of White Plains, all the way up into Putnam County.
Right.
50,000 acres.
Okay.
So I think that wasn't the one on
So that was
Oregon Road
what they
built
call
for
the lower manor house. And this is the upper.
Right,
manor.
that's it. So
They
that
own
would be
both
the
of them.
lower man, but they preserved that because they do tours of that, and you can see how they lived in
Yeah.
that time, which is
Yeah.
we get up. We go open the refrigerator, take out a couple of eggs,
right.
pour a glass of milk.
Yeah. Stove
put
is
the
ready to
bacon
go,
on,
electric,
put the bacon on
gas,
the oven.
yeah.
But back then, you had to cut the wood first, light the stove, go out, get the egg, kill the pig to get the bacon, smoke the meat. I mean, it was a lot of work,
Smoke the duck or what.
which is why they ate vegetables a lot.
Well, it was
Because getting meat.
Yeah, but that's only in the summer. You couldn't,
was mostly
you couldn't grow them in the
farmland
winter.
anyway.
Right, but
Yeah, right.
eating meat was a chore. It was not like making. They had to bake the bread.
Getting back to Benedict Arnold,
To
was
John
he
Paulding.
treated kind of? Was he treated kind of unfairly?
Not at all. He was a black-hearted villain.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he was-
But
He
the
was
story
conspiring with the British.
I
for
understood,
several
but that
years.
was at the end. I think didn't he feel slighted by
In the beginning. He was an American hero.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Do you think maybe the American Army at that time, or the U.S.
He
forces?
felt he wasn't appreciated for all
correct.
the good things
Right.
that he did.
So you understand why he.
But he was tempted by the money.
Right. Of course.
By an increase in his rank.
But do you think if they'd have given him the rank, do you think he would have stayed with the
That's a
US
good
Army?
question, really.
See, that's what I'm trying to say because
is-
I read
that is a
both
good question.
sides of that story,
Yeah.
and he got shafted a couple of times, not just once.
In a way, he did. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they promoted other people over it.
Oh,
Well, I
I mean,
got the
he got-
feeling
yeah,
that
he
piece
got
you're
pissed.
holding in your hand is related to something you and.
Well, we'll just do it briefly. That Paulding, for his minimal service, but that turned out to be so important to the history of what happened and allowing the country to be created and so on, was given this medal. This is actually the
That camera,
first,
that camera.
the first congressional medal ever made.
that
It was- and Paulding lived right out in Crompond for most of his life. He used to come into Peekskill all the time. So therefore, there's Paulding Street, back to the streets book. So
Right.
we gave that like a page and a half in the book.
Yeah, I remember. I know. There's a few streets that you really highlight. The Brown family and all the streets named after their family.
Oh yeah, well the Browns were Quakers, and they're the ones that really got involved with Holy Green and the Underground Railroad.
Now that I'm glad
So
you brought
John,
that up.
how
No,
were,
one
so
said
what were
before
the
you brought
names?
that up,
So,
with the Underground
you
Rail.
had the Van Cortlandts in here. You had the Pauldings. You had was Beecher considered probably one, or is that later on?
There's a Beecher Lane now, I think.
Well, that's
so-
up at the
the Beecher Estates.
But was he also involved during the Revolutionary War like that, or
Civil War.
Civil War?
Henry Ward Beecher.
Right.
He was a big shot minister in Brooklyn, and
Right.
he came up and he retired here, brought his whole family up, and they built a mansion up there.
Right, up on top of
Yeah.
exactly.
Now-
so you had them, and who else? What was another? What were the bigger names like in the area? Were those pretty much at Putnam?
Well, Chauncey Depew.
Yeah,
Depew.
W.
He was really a national. He gave the main speech at the dedication of the Statue of Liberty
Oh, no
in
kidding.
1886. Yeah, he knew almost everybody that was anybody back then.
Right.
And he saw Lincoln in the White House, and it's an amazing story. I mean, he really had a lot of influence.
Now, it is true, because
so
again, the new
Depew Street, Chauncey Place,
Right.
Depew Park.
but the people that, like I said, new to the area, Peekskill was part of the Underground Railroad, and there are still houses in existence, correct, that were part
Well,
of
the
that?
church was part of it, the AME Zion Church, but they were formed in 1852.
Right.
And they were formed originally as an abolitionist church. In other words, to help the people that
Now
were.
that's the one on Park Street.
Yes.
Yeah, but you have the house on Main Street across from the new Dunkin' Donuts.
Did they?
Right,
yeah,
right up from the net.
there's-
Well, that's
Yeah.
where the Beechers are.
yeah.
Well, Beecher was definitely an abolitionist, and he certainly did a lot to help the people get out of slavery. I don't know if he did it locally. I think mostly. It was
No, but
out
there's
of
a
Brooklyn.
house on Main Street, used to be the headquarters for L&L Taxi.
Yeah, he's
corner
talking about where
North
the
James
current,
in
where the
Maine.
current Dunkin' Donuts is.
I don't
Across
know.
the street by
It's-
North
they
James.
used to call it Doctor's Row over there.
By James.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There is a house.
Yes. Yes.
That they say was part of the
on Main Street though.
Yeah, I
Yes.
said Main Street.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, that was owned by the Quaker as well, and that's one of the I don't know what do you call it, halfway houses or safe
Right.
house.
Safe house.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Holy Green was definitely involved in this whole thing. This is a really fascinating story. Holy Green was a local guy, and he owned the barber shop, and he was given. There was a white philanthropist in New York State called Garrett Smith who gave money and land to people helping the Underground Railroad people. Hawley Green received more money and more land than anybody else. So he was in the real estate business as well, and so was his wife. His wife was actually an Oneida Indian. I went down to White Plains. They owned several properties all around Howard and Maine and that whole Broad Street around in there. Together they owned 6 or 7 properties. With their own names. I went down to White Plains. Now she's a woman and she's an Indian, and she had a name. She had like 4 properties that she owned. So and it all began by a mortgage that was given to her or to them by James Brown, who was the Quaker descendant of Nathaniel Brown, one of the settlers here. The Peekskill story is fascinating because we've been involved in all these national things.
Now you
guys don't want to hear about the Lincoln thing, but the Lincoln thing was also very important.
No, but I want to go. I want because we only have a half-hour show, and
Yeah, but the Lincoln
this-
thing was, I mean, really, how long was he here?
That's not the point. The point.
Yeah, but he was here for what, 5 minutes?
See, they misunderstood what he said. When he got off the train, he didn't give a speech. He said, "I
Well, you're
got to
from
take a
Peekskill,
leak.
man.
You
Right,
have a
what's wrong
band."
with
No,
Right?
he
I
did
mean,
make
come
a
on.
speech.
You know. That was his
Okay, we're going to
speech.
skip that topic. Let me go over to something
I
else
wanted
now.
to because you were doing another book.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
are doing another
Yes.
book.
Yeah, I just finished.
Again, dealing with the history of Peekskill.
Yeah.
But now, not the street names
No.
and not the general history.
No.
It's more
The history
specific.
of taxis in Peekskill.
Yeah,
There
the
you
history
go.
of taxis. Right?
Fascinating.
It's
And there's
mo-
no end to that story.
No.
It's more specific. What is your new book?
Well, it's really a focus on the retail businesses in the downtown Peekskill, mostly in the mid-1900s, 1940s, 50s, 60s, up to around 1970s.
Would you cover a lot in the history book? You have pictures of them, some of the
Yeah,
old
we
businesses.
we have over 100 photographs.
Yeah.
And we actually identified the businesses. You have to look in those old business directories. You familiar with those?
Right.
It lists all the names and what they did and who the wife was, who was in the family. Great resource. So I read several of those books. And also a lot of help with people that former families that were involved in those businesses. Many of them, and most of them, more than 50%, were Jewish owned and operated, by
Correct.
the way, which was a phenomenon. It doesn't exist now.
No.
And by the 70s, it started, getting less and less.
Well,
and less.
wait a second.
And that's what
It would
that's
make
what-
sense, though, because almost all of Mohegan and Cortland were colonies
Yeah.
where the
Good point.
Jewish
Sure.
population
Good point.
came up and spent their summers.
And
That's true.
throw in Lake Peekskill, too.
Right, like Peekskill too. So you had a heavy Jewish population
Right.
up here. What, 6 months of the year at least?
Well, no,
Well,
they would.
well, less
no,
than
no, they
like
would only come about
3 or
2-3
4,
months. That's
yeah.
all. They weren't here that much.
Mostly
too
get
long.
out of the city.
Yeah,
and just like-
because they live right in the city.
But I'm
Yes.
just saying, but I can see why they would also, a lot of them wanted to stay up here,
Well,
get out of the city,
yeah,
open a
sure, it goes
business,
both ways.
so they would open a
correct.
business.
I think that's
But I
true.
mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's not, as much as it may be like an aberration, but it makes sense because of what the surrounding
Sure.
area of Peekskill was.
Sure, just
That's
like
true.
anything else, as a
There were
community.
even little colonies,
Yeah.
the Mohegan colony.
Right, you got Mohegan
and,
Colony. You got
there's a couple other ones.
Run by Sprout Brook. What the hell?
Frank Singer.
Right, but I'm saying, but the colony down there by Sprout Brook, Winston Lane and Steuben Road, that whole area.
Well, that's Continental Village.
Yeah, Continental Village,
Yes.
right.
That's what he's talking about.
But you have
Well-
Lake Oscawana, Lake Peekskill,
Right.
Lake Mohegan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So all your residents were more like Jefferson Valley, Yorktown Heights, but Mohegan was just because I remember
So
we had
that's
Nino's.
part of the story.
Right, we had Nino's, and we used to say the running joke was, "Be nice to them; they're a winter customer."
That's right.
Because most of the Yorktown
I
disappeared.
see. I remember Nino's way out Jefferson
Yes,
Valley.
yes.
That's
yes.
that's family.
Is that
That's the
right?
grandson.
What's it called now? Alexandra or something?
No, Synopsis,
Sinope,
Ciola Manor.
Ciola Manor, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we sold that in '83 when my grandfather died.
Oh, that's interesting.
Remember, you used to see when you'd go in, you see the kid being slapped around.
That was me. Yes.
Well, I remember that real well. No, I don't.
Yeah, but anyway, you do have. What is the name of your new
The
book?
name of the title is Peekskill's
That camera again. That camera there.
Jewish Community in the 1900s.
Now,
There you go.
And you
now,
just
It's been
doubt-
printed yet.
So I
It's
doubt
coming,
the
though.
original owners are still alive. But any children, grandchildren?
Yeah, we're in the third generation from that time.
From that time.
And some of those people contributed to the story here.
Any
by writing
names?
A little,
Any of the Gibbs?
Rubenfelds
Rubenfeld,
and Feldmans and.
Right.
But when you look at the
Gibbs and-
storefronts on Main Street,
Meyer.
and you see the
Yes.
way the way those storefronts are, I tell my
Gold
cousin,
Sand.
they says that's an interesting storefront for a restaurant.
Newman.
Or what I said, but that used to be a clothing store, and that's where they put the displays, and that used to be Tom McCann's over there, and that's where they put this, and that's why the way the stores are set and the way the glasses jut out.
Yeah, some of those storefronts are still there.
Yes, I know you.
Skolsky's, for example.
I remember
Right.
as you get closer to the intersection of Main and
Rubenfeld
Division.
still has that R on it.
Right.
on the side.
Rubenfeld's, but there used to be Rosoffs over there too.
Oh, Rosoff's, yeah.
And what happened is my father was a tailor, so I remember him coming home at night, eating dinner, and then afterwards he'd take me just to keep him company. We used to go into Rosoff or Rosenblum and go upstairs, and he'd do the alterations, like for extra,
But if I'm correct with
little
it-
extra work. We used to go there at least 2
If I'm
nights
correct
a
with the
week. I remember
Division
doing
Street
that
Grill
probably
is-
for about a year,
That's
year and a half.
interesting.
It, with the Division Street Grill is either that store or the one next to it. That was a Tom McCann store.
Tom McCann was closer to Skolsky's.
One it was on
Well,
that,
it's within that block.
Yeah.
right, it was in
Yeah.
that block.
It was right-
Sometimes they moved around.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
hard to track.
But
you
Tom
know.
McCann
But I
was right
remember-
next to Skolsky's.
Because on Bank Street, on the corner there,
Mm-hmm.
you had Anthony's Shoes, right across from where the Peekskill
Well, there were
Sound.
quite a few. There was Mark
you
also
had
on South
Anthony's.
Street.
Right.
But that Center Diner was always there. I remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
one that
yeah.
looks like a diner.
Yeah.
I remember that as a kid.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of restaurants, I just came across one of the lists in the former business directories that in 1952 there were 54 restaurants.
Is that right?
54, that serve food
In the
different- all
downtown
kinds of
area.
places. No,
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in the whole Peekskill.
Oh, no, Peekskill, gotcha.
So
54.
restaurant
They say,
row.
they
I
say
mean,
there's a lot now.
Which is
54.
why his father opened a dry cleaner. All those people getting tomato sauce on their clothes, they had to be dry cleaned.
yeah.
But anyway, what's that?
I brought some little trinkets and artifacts from the museum. I thought that would be interesting, entertaining to the people out there in TV land.
Oh, sounds good.
This is really a curious piece. It says
I
here,
want to know what it is myself.
Annie Oakley disc target. You see, it's like a silver dollar, but it's shot through with a bullet hole.
Right.
And because the Wild West show, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, did perform in Madison Square Garden way back in the late 1800s, and then they took the train. They did perform here.
So Annie Oakley was one of the performers.
Oh, she was, the real.
Oh, she was like a sharpshooter.
Yeah, sharpshooter. That's a good
Okay.
word.
Can I?
My question is,
Now,
though,
is that-
how was this done?
Well, I was
did
just
she
gonna-
hold it in? Someone hold
So
it in
they
their fingers
probably
like
shot that like naturally they're not doing
I
that.
don't
like
know.
that.
Guy
Look
held
at that.
it,
Look
the
how
guy
clean
held
it
it
is.
between his teeth. And
Or
he-
maybe
so-
they drilled holes in them.
Yeah, I
because-
think so. It looks like it was
No,
drilled.
no. He held it between his teeth, so you had to keep getting another holder after every show.
Oh, that's good.
Now, I got to ask you a question.
employment anyway.
That deals with your new book. And Dominic may be a little upset with me, but I'm going to ask you a question. When they set up all those businesses that you take the pictures of in your other
Yeah.
book and that you're
They
doing
come from the
now,
Evening Star mostly. The old
they have parking meters for those people, or could they actually park here?
Well, I don't see any on this photo here. And mostly they're.
when they first put the parking meters
Mostly
in
they weren't. They
Peekskill.
started, I think, in the 50s or something like that. But it was, just in a few areas.
Not like now.
Now, you graduated Peekskill High in '63, and you also, Dominic, obviously grew up in
Yes,
Peekskill.
and I got 77.
All right, so you guys are Peekskill, born and bred. You grew up
Lakeland.
Were you familiar with Peekskill?
Yeah, because you had to do everything out of Peekskill. There was
Okay.
nothing in you.
No, no.
You went through Cortland to get to Peekskill.
Okay.
There really was nothing unless you went to the Heights town of Yorktown. There was nothing on the Route 6
So
corridor.
you remember a different Peekskill too?
Yeah, there was 3 traffic lights between Lexington Avenue and Broad Street. Between York, 3 traffic lights. You had Lexington, Locust, and Broad.
Did
Those
you
were
not
the
call
traffic lights.
Peekskill the city, correct?
Yeah, it was always
known
the
as
city. We're going to
Yeah.
the city.
Yes.
Because that's where you want a
That's-
bank. You want to go.
you wanna
There
go
was
to
a
the
center
bank,
all the way
food,
from
whatever.
Croton to
But you wanted to
Cold
go to the
Spring
bank,
and
you went to
Yorktown,
Peekskill. You
everybody
wanted to
came
go
this way.
shopping, you went to Peekskill. You wanted clothes, that's why I know the Tom
There were the
McCann. You wanted
banks,
shoes.
the insurance,
You went to
the
insurance,
lawyers,
mortgages,
the
Everything
all
was
that
done
stuff,
out of
yes.
Peekskill.
all of that was
Yep,
there.
yep.
Except for the DMV, that was in Carmel.
Right,
Right.
correct.
Oh, I remember that.
it's-
Oh,
and
no,
it's-
no,
and
no,
it
no,
still
no,
is.
or Beacon.
Even further.
Well,
up.
we went to
Yeah.
Carmel because it was right on Route 6.
Yeah,
For
I
you,
remember
but
that.
a lot of people
And,
think
it's,
so
and
it's a
that
split.
part of 6 hasn't changed. One way
That's
in,
true.
one way out. In spite of the increase in traffic, one lane in, one lane
Well,
out.
that's an old road, it goes all the
Yeah.
way into Connecticut. There, right?
But anyway, I
Well,
want to go back
as
to
a
the-
real quick, as a newcomer to Peekskill, someone who wasn't here until I was over the age of 30, a lot of the words, the store names you just started throwing out, I'm pretty familiar with because on Facebook, there's a couple of Peekskill history groups, and they show
Yes.
all the
Yeah, Frank
storefronts.
Gornier.
Yeah,
Frank
you
Gornier.
see the parades that were going
That how you
on,
pronounce
and
his name?
it's
And
beautiful.
Frank
Just
Gornier,
like
and also a woman, Donna Marchion-Heiner. She's another
Yeah.
one. She's big with that too. I think she was a little later.
There's a lot
than
of postcards
63.
show those
She was
scenes
more
as
like
well.
67.
Yeah, it was
I
quite a-
think.
quite
Yeah, she knows almost everything.
But I want to.
Yeah.
I do want to get to this part that John wants to talk about with
So,
the
John,
parking.
what is
no,
this
no,
over
Dominic,
here?
let him talk. I
I'm going to
want.
show the shark's tooth.
Yeah, what's this
It's
shark's
an ancient
tooth?
thing. This is like
Now, was this found
We
in the
got 2
Hudson?
minutes.
a million years
Was
old.
this
There
found
it
in the
is.
Hudson?
You got 2 minutes.
It's
Yeah,
an
right.
Indian axe head
That's the
found
story.
in Depew Park.
Now, you
Come to
want-
the museum. We got this and
You
more.
wanted.
Curious artifacts.
You wanted
Is
to
this
know.
is this Andy's grandfather?
Yeah, take a
picture?
look at that.
you probably don't like that anyway.
Take a look
You
at
wanted
this.
to know about with the parking, and I want to
Yeah,
know.
I want to know how the parking system that we have now with the meters and no overnight and back
You got to
and
go to a
forth,
city council meeting.
how does that help the community?
That's the
Is it
number-
helping the community? It's an
Well,
open
I
question.
would think if it helped.
Because I don't get it. It's not helping me.
Well, see, to me, I would think it would help the community if that during the holidays they didn't suspend it. So that's telling me that it's hurting the community if you have to suspend it for holiday parking. So it can't be a good. I mean, if it was a good thing, you wouldn't suspend it during the holidays.
Well,
Oh,
they
yeah.
call it a cash cow for the city because it's a stream
Yeah.
of revenue, and
It brings
that's
a lot of
that's the
money
bottom
in, I
line.
suppose.
That's
25 cents for 15 minutes. What can you do in 15
no,
minutes?
they don't forget about the 25 cents. You're talking on a part of
because
almost
we're
200
old.
It
I
sounded
can
like
tell you
one
what he
year
can
they
do
had
in
like
15
$235,000 worth of revenue.
Costs more than
just off
25
the-
cents.
I know.
You know, so that's what it comes down to.
Yes, I know. I've read the budget. It actually
Yeah.
it used to be close to $500,000. They count the fines as well as the things that they collect
Well,
with the
just
meters.
strictly off the meters. Fines, yeah, that's another 100.
Yeah, are you kidding?
I know. I just paid a $50.
Well, how does it
one the other
benefit the
day.
people living there? You know, that's
It's
my
a-
question.
Yeah.
I'd like
See,
to hear the answers.
I
to
know
that.
what they. Part of the reason is you want to keep the cars moving so people don't
you
hog
do.
up the spot.
Right, correct.
That's one of them. And you don't.
Correct.
People don't hog up the spot.
I think, and that's the underlying reason with the
But
majority.
you
of
could
this.
have done that by just putting a time limit on the street.
They tried that with a police officer going around. Actually, it was what they call the community officer, where they would chalk the tires.
Like
and
cut the
put
Oh, yeah, I
them at
remember
10,
that,
15, but it didn't work. The people were abusing it to the point that some of the people that were living in the second and third story apartments,
see.
they would park there and stay all day long. And that's why we went back to the
So
meters.
it's sort of like a no-win situation.
Yeah, it's. I
always
I
has
think
been, doesn't it?
when a business gets busy, when a downtown gets busy, Parking will always be an issue, no matter what time
I see.
you get to.
So
That
now
was
you,
good.
See,
Good
now
answer.
you had the answer, and I wanted to get that done before.
This is Star Trek.
Yeah, that's how I know there's a text message for me. But I'll worry about that when the show's over. You wanted the answer to the
We're already
question.
on the credits. So closing us out here.
But see, we got it in the 2 minutes.
Yeah, we did.
We still got your book
You
in.
and that damn parking, I'm crazy.
No, no.
A lot of people be
You know,
interested in that.
you gotta